Who would win in a fight? Godric Gryffindor, Salazar Slytherin, Helga Hufflepuff, or Rowena Ravenclaw?
Well, definitely not Rowena Ravenclaw.
I think Helga Hufflepuff would win.
The Grey Lady got killed by the stupid bloody
The
Baron.
Grey Lady is not Rowena Ravenclaw.
It's
She's her daughter.
I mean, come on.
Like
Everyone
mother,
knows.
like daughter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Salazar Slytherin. He's got a freaking basilisk. Well, Gryffindor has a sword. Oh, who cares?
He's a champion duelist.
Sword is known to kill that basilisk.
That is
though.
true.
Oh no! You poked a giant hole in my theory.
And in your basilisk.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
man. Okay, so we all agree Helga Hufflepuff would win, right?
Oh, yeah.
I know nothing about her, so I can't argue against that. Hey, yeah, today we're talking about the best movie in the Harry Potter series, as I'm sure
Debatably.
everyone would agree.
I mean, I think everyone here agrees.
We're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about Harry Potter 2, The Chamber of Secrets, directed by Chris Columbus again,
Yeah,
and written
Chris
by
Columbus.
Woo.
Steve Kloves.
Just a little reminder, this is all part of our big 20-year anniversary Harry Potter celebration. We're covering some of the biggest and probably like most shocking theories in Harry Potter, including that possibly Ron cast the Imperius Curse on Hermione, Hagrid may or may not have been a Death Eater, Dumbledore also might have been a Death Eater, or maybe just evil, some kind of dark wizard.
Yeah, I don't think he's a Death Eater or necessarily
No,
on
I think
Voldemort's
he's-
side, but he was a
He's
dark
just
wizard.
another dark wizard, yeah. The most important theory of all, though, that Snape is Harry's father. Those are the
Yes.
theories we're going over
Snape
today.
is
And
Harry's
today,
father.
we're covering Harry Potter 2, The Chamber of Secrets.
Of course, based on the book Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, written by J.K. Rowling. Or was it Rowling?
I don't remember.
All right, whatever.
I looked it up last
She
time.
can correct us when we get her on.
So I think all of us think this is the most entertaining, probably the best Harry Potter movie. One criticism I often hear levied against this movie and this book is that people say that it is the least important to the plot, that you could like basically lift it out and it doesn't matter. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that, Leif. Like, what do you
No.
think? Why?
It's one of the
'Cause
most important
I think
ones
the
in the
absolute
series.
opposite. Exactly. This movie introduces Horcruxes. It introduces Voldemort. Like, we didn't even see Voldemort in the first movie. It was just like a
Exactly.
scab on the back of someone's head. Now we actually meet Tom Riddle. We learn
Right.
about his past. We learn about Hagrid's past. We learn about Dumbledore's past.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this movie.
The movie that you can 100% lift out is Harry Potter 3.
Harry Potter 3.
Right.
Prisoner of Azkaban.
Like, the only
Yes.
important thing that happens is Wormtail goes back to the Dark Lord. He could have done that at any point for
He
any
could have
reason.
done that anytime. Mhm.
Like,
I guess
I
Sirius
can't
comes back so
believe
he
that
can
Voldemort
die.
is not more angry at Wormtail. Like, that's all Voldemort needed to come back was Wormtail. That's all he needed.
My favorite opening to any Harry Potter book or any Harry Potter movie. You know, it starts basically with Harry Potter. He's a psychopath. He's very disturbed. He goes crazy. He just starts like throwing cakes at people.
Right, yeah. And that is one theory that you could take from at least the first two movies, is that it's all in
Yes.
Harry's head. The popcorn isn't real. He is
They
their
keep him locked
disturbed.
up for a reason.
Yeah, their disturbed son drops cakes
the
on
most-
people's heads,
Yep.
just keeps slamming the closet in his door upstairs, just
Yeah,
he wants
he's
attention.
slamming it over and over after Vernon
Fix that
expressly
door.
told him to be quiet.
Meeting new people really upsets him.
Sometimes starts hitting himself with things and screaming about it.
Bad Harry. Has
No,
a
I think there is
imaginary
some
friend named
legitimacy
Dobby.
to the
Not
theory
really
that Dobby is
friend.
just Harry's personality manifesting itself.
Yeah. A self-abusive
going
and
crazy.
abusive of other people non-friend who is imaginary named Dobby.
Yep.
No, in reality, in the reality of the books and movies, I do love the opening to Harry Potter 2. I think it establishes a really fun mystery right off the bat. You're like, who's Dobby? What's he doing here? How powerful is Dobby? You know, he seems to
Very.
work for someone even more powerful, and yet he can do anything he wants. Right? Like, it's kind of cool the way they establish that. You think it's going to pay off, but it kind of just doesn't. Like, turns out house elves
Right.
are just really powerful for no
And they're
reason.
just like, you all should feel happy for Dobby because he's free now and
Yeah.
he's cute. When you're like,
And
Dobby is
he's
freaking
not
evil.
nice. He's a psychopath.
He's so terrible in this movie. Ah.
Right. No, I thought there would be more to Dobby, and I thought that he might turn out to be like a villain or something later. He never
Yeah,
did.
that
But I
seems to
do
be
like
what
the
we
mystery
think
that
for
they
most
start out with, right?
people.
I know.
Sensing a theme here.
Coming at this from like, you know, as a kid, I read the first book and I was waiting for the second book to come out with like bated breath, right? I was so excited. And the opening of the second book is like, Harry Potter must not return to Hogwarts. I'm like,
Oh,
what?
no.
No, he has to go back to Hogwarts.
This is
That's
one
his
place
thing.
he's happy.
Hogwarts is my home.
It's a fun opening. It's really cool.
He has
And
to
then
dissociate back to the fantasy land of Hogwarts, so he can't deal with the
J.K.
stress.
J.K.
of being
Rowling
alive.
has explicitly
We're done with
said
that
that
theory.
theory is not true.
No, but it's cool because then like Vernon like locks him up. In the books, they go a lot deeper into describing how much he like locks down the house. Like he buys bars not just for the windows but also for the doors. How's Harry gonna get back to Hogwarts? And then out of nowhere, the Weasleys come in with this flying car and rip half of the house off. That just got my blood pumping as a kid. I was like, oh my gosh, they're busting him out of Fort Knox. This is so cool.
He and Petunia know that by letting Harry leave, they are incurring more wrath from the dark wizard Dumbledore, which is points for the Dumbledore theory that Harry could go live with the Weasleys if not for Dumbledore. Dumbledore is the
Yeah, it's
entire
true.
reason he has to keep going back to the Dursleys every single year. Dumbledore's like, go back and live with the
this
Dursleys.
is true.
I get it. So they're keeping him here for their own safety. They're like, no, you're not leaving our house. That evil wizard put you here, and he'll kill us if we let you leave.
He sends them a howler when they finally kick him out of the house.
That's true,
But
you're
you
right.
do have to point out while saying all that although Harry could go live with the Weasleys, and I think that would be a better solution, the reason that Dumbledore doesn't allow it is because by living with someone who's blood related to him, Harry can continue the magic of love that Lily cast on him with her death that protects him
You're
from
right.
Voldemort.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that. That's true. There is an in-universe reason.
That is the in-universe explanation for why Dumbledore thinks Harry needs to live with the Dursleys.
Right, because Surrey is so safe for Harry. It's not like he encounters some life-threatening thing at the beginning of every
single
book.
year.
And it's also worth noticing that specifically the reason he needed the blood of the enemy unwillingly taken or whatever was to break that spell that Lily cast. And
Right,
he
so
says
after-
that it did. I can touch you now. And yeah, after
Yep.
the fifth,
So
in the
after
fifth
that,
book and
he
on,
could
he
just live
still
with
is.
whoever he wants.
Yeah, with the
No,
Dursleys.
Dumbledore's just torturing him because he likes torturing Harry.
Yeah.
And Harry loves it. Harry's so loyal to Dumbledore, as we will see in this movie.
Whoa,
He's
we will.
Dumbledore's man through and through.
Well, first, you did want to talk about the Weasleys. Let's talk about the Weasleys.
I'm just going to say, I believe that Ron, he takes a lot after his mother, Molly, who I think is kind of a bad person.
Yeah.
Not only is she okay with them kidnapping Harry, we know how she constantly is like, does this weird abusive hot and cold thing where she berates her
Yep.
kids, but then just showers love and affection on
Yep.
Harry. I don't think it's because she likes Harry. I think it's to punish her kids.
Yeah, it's to put them in their place.
She's like, yeah, you see what I'm doing here? Huh? Yeah,
She's
if you
like,
were good
"Compete
kids.
for my love.
I think both of those the reasonings are a little tenuous. First of all, the reason she doesn't care that they kidnapped Harry is because Ron keeps her updated on how like the Dursleys abuse him. So she's happy to have him there. Second of all, as a child, I frequently had friends who I would go visit and their parents would act like that, where they'd be pretty harsh on their own kids and then be really nice to me because I'm the guest and it's easier to be nice to a guest.
But then, so they use flu powder to travel to Diagon Alley. Harry goes through the fireplace and they know he went to Nocturne Alley, but they don't care.
Yeah.
She says, oh, I hoped that you just went one gate too far, which she would know is Nocturne Alley, which is a bad place, as we'll definitely get into. But like, she's just lining up to get a signature or whatever,
From
an
Lockhart.
Dude,
autograph
she can't
from
miss
Gilderoy
Lockhart.
Lockhart.
Come on.
Yeah, she's a very big
Nothing's more
fan.
important than that.
And she doesn't care. Like I think this is evidence against what Brita just said, that she doesn't care about Harry himself. It's just to punish her kids. She doesn't care that he ended up in Nocturne Alley. He's getting abused by weird witches who are like, come here, darling.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about flu powder. Everything about flu powder and how it works is based entirely on voice recognition. With no security measures in place to stop you from traveling to any chimney anywhere in the
And
world.
not the kind of voice recognition that like determines who you are.
No.
Just determines where
understands
you're
the
going.
words you say or doesn't
Yeah,
understand
like
them.
Siri. It's like if instead of driving places, you said, hey, Siri, take me to whatever place I want to go, and just hope that she knew what place you're talking about. Why would anyone use flu powder when we've got so many other means of transportation?
The other means of transportation are worth talking about because most of them can't be used by children. Specifically, apparition can't be used by children, right? We know that. You can't do that until I think you're 17. And that causes a lot of problems. And also, wizards don't seem to use brooms for actual transportation. They seem to use them almost
Yeah, it's kinda
exclusively
weird.
for Quidditch. there's port keys, but port keys, I think, are arguably even more dangerous than the flu network. Like, you just have to grab on and let go at a random time. And also, you have to spell it specifically to take people to a specific place at a specific time. And, like, I think you can have reusable port keys, but it's a whole mess. So I think the flu network does suck, but I think it's better than most of those.
Okay, so last thing about flu powder. Is Santa Claus a wizard?
I think that's addressed in universe. Like, I think they talk about Santa Claus.
You're a wizard, Santa.
But I don't remember the details.
No, there's a pretty cool theory that Santa Claus is a wizard, that he uses flu powder to get into every house, that he uses magic to, accio all the presents to him.
I mean, everyone loves it when Santa shows up in their cool fantasy, like, especially in the Narnia movie.
Yeah, Santa! Here's some weapons, kids! These are the only ways to travel, and if wizards can't apparate when they're younger, and if wizards canonically don't use toilets, how do children apparate their droppings away?
I don't know that they canonically don't use toilets.
They have lots of toilets.
They just use them to get into the ministry.
According to J.K. Rowling, Hogwarts plumbing became more elaborate in the 18th century. This is a rare instance of wizards copying muggles, because hitherto they simply relieved themselves wherever they stood and vanished the evidence. That's what J.K. Rowling said.
Seems unlikely.
Well, I know, it's crazy.
I guess
and
you need
especially when you factor
around.
in the fact that Slytherin built his secret lab underneath a toilet.
Right.
Even though he came from a time before they used toilets.
Yeah, they came from 900 AD, I think.
Right, yeah.
I don't know when the wizard apparating at 17 rule started, so maybe children used to know how to apparate their poop away.
Good point.
It's great, but like kids just keep getting splinched all over the place when they're trying to apparate their poop away.
Oh no!
We should probably just. What do the Muggles use? Oh yeah, those look safer.
And I think Salazar Slytherin once used those, but we forgot about it.
Wait, Salazar Slytherin, he didn't know it was a toilet. That's why it doesn't work. He's like, this must be some kind of a door, right? I'll use this as a door.
Technically, it's under the sink, not the toilet.
Wow, the toilet never worked though. I mean.
Yeah.
It's because he didn't know what it was supposed to do.
That's true. Okay, so
Harry ends up in Nocturne Alley.
Yes.
To support the bad Hagrid theory, Hagrid shows up and then berates Harry for skulking around Nocturne Alley. Dodgy place. Don't want no one to see you there. I mean, he's clearly projecting.
And not only that, before he said that, he knocks the tray out of the hands of the witch who's being weird to Harry, and he grabs Harry by the scruff of his neck and like drags him away. Like, it's not like a very protective, like, oh, it's okay, Harry. Like
he doesn't want Harry to see what he was doing.
Exactly.
In that alley.
Yeah, and his excuse for being in that alley
is total BS.
Yeah, right. He says, I was lost. Hang on. What were you doing here?
I was looking for flesh-eating slug repellent. Yeah. They're ruining all the school cabbages.
That might have been useful later on when Ron is coughing up flesh-eating slugs.
And he does not have it. And not only
his only thing he's got is a freaking bucket to spit in. He has flesh-eating slug repellent.
I mean, maybe it doesn't work once it's inside
you. To be fair, I wouldn't want to put flesh-eating slug repellent down my throat.
I don't think those slugs were
regardless, first of all, this seems like a common enough product that I don't understand why the only place it's being sold is in Nocturne Alley at Dodgy Place.
Sound pretty bad.
People think you're up to no good. Yeah, and
unless you can only get flesh-eating slugs through dodgy means, and people really think you're weird.
But here's the next thing. So he said
it's like a sexually transmitted disease.
School cabbages, like an innuendo.
Oh my gosh! Whoa, that explains why Hagrid doesn't want people to see him here looking for it.
Oh man, we've just poked holes in our own theory. But to assume it's not an innuendo, he says he needs it for the school cabbages, something we never hear about again. But later in the book, they talk about him using it to keep the baby mandrakes safe. So as it turns out, there was a use for the flesh-eating slug repellent, but not the one that Hagrid said. So I honestly don't think he was getting flesh-eating slug repellent at that time or at that place. He just, like you said, made up an excuse for Harry.
And also Professor Sprout probably has some. Right? Why does she need to rely on Hagrid to go get some from Nocturne Alley?
It's his job to get things for the grounds, Eric, by which I mean plants.
So Harry safely escapes both Nocturne Alley and evil Hagrid and makes his way to Flourish and Blotts, where Hermione is incredibly happy to see him.
Unlike everyone else, she was actually rightfully worried.
In the book, when Gilderoy gives Harry all his books, Harry gives them all to Ginny, like he dumps them in her cauldron and says he'll buy his own because he's rich.
Yep.
In the movie, Molly greedily steals them, saying, "You give me those, I'll get them signed."
Yeah, I liked that detail in the book. I thought it was one of the few times where he showed any recognition at all that his best friend's family is insanely poor and he's a millionaire, right? Like, he lets them take care of him and buy him things and do things for him all the time and never in any way repays them. In the movie, Molly's just too excited about her favorite star being there and has to go get them signed.
Right.
Harry Potter, he's leaving and he runs into Malfoy. Malfoy rips a page out of a book and shoves it into his cloak. What page is this and from what book and why did they include that? Like, is this just a show that he's a bad boy ripping pages out of books?
I think that is why.
I think he's like Sky Parkins from Hogwarts
Oh, he
Mystery.
probably is.
In Hogwarts Mystery, there's a character who, when she studies, she rips out the pages of the book that she'll need. And if you leave it on that scene of the game, she'll just rip out pages forever.
Oh, man. I got to download that game and
her,
find
her reasoning for this is because she travels light.
Yeah, she's such a good Quidditch player.
She's so full of pages.
But no, back to Torvald's question. I don't think there is a book or movie explanation for that scene. There is a fan theory explanation for that scene, which is that later in this movie, we do encounter a page that has been torn out of a book. Do you remember what it is? It's the page with the information on the basilisk that Harry takes out of Hermione's hand. So yeah, there is a fan theory that says,
oh my gosh,
like Hermione would never tear a page out of a book.
No,
Hermione loves
you're
books.
right.
And so yeah, there's a fan theory that he knew about the basilisk and was actually trying to help them secretly the whole time.
And he would know
he
about
would have known about the basilisk.
Yep.
His dad was the one who set this in motion.
So yes, that he tore that page out to give them that hint later, and that he was the one who gave that page to Hermione, perhaps without her knowing.
Dude, it's not to show that he's a bad boy, it's to show that he's a good boy.
I don't think Draco's necessarily good, but I'm thinking, he's not so bad. So he comes down the stairs. He's like, bet you love that Potter. Famous Harry Potter.
I love Draco.
Can't even go to a bookshop without making the front page. And then Ginny's all like, leave him alone. And then Lucius shows up. And then after they talk to Lucius, he goes up to Harry. He says, see you at school. That would almost be a nice thing to say, right? See you at school, man. Bye.
He doesn't have friends except for Crabbe and Goyle, so he doesn't know how to interact with people in a non-intimidating manner.
Crabbe and Goyle don't even like him.
They're complete idiots. He thinks nothing of them. Like, he doesn't even think they can read.
We'll get into that. I think he is correct. Like, he's not being rude there.
You mentioned that Lucius shows up.
Right.
Oh my gosh, Lucius is so good here.
I love Lucius.
Excellent casting.
This whole conversation, the shot of him suddenly pulling Harry closer out of nowhere as the camera Dutch angles and he brushes Harry back with his staff, which is a snake. It's so
And
good.
also his
Oh my
wand.
gosh.
Yep.
And the film does get the detail right that Ginny is carrying a cauldron, even if Harry doesn't get to put all his books in there. And that's so Lucius can give her the diary.
Yeah. Lucius's plan really depended on a lot of happenstance.
Right.
I hope someone starts writing in this thing. And
Yeah.
That's a better plan than Wormtail's plan,
Than
which
doing
was
nothing?
nothing.
Just never go back. Be a rat for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Platform 9 3/4.
they have to steal a car because the platform won't let them in.
I gotta say, even if Harry and Ron had made it through, they would never have been able to catch that train because it is exactly 11 o'clock, mere seconds after they crash into the wall. The train's already leaving. I don't even know how Ginny caught the train.
It's worth noting in this scene that any reasonable person is like, why did they steal the car? Like, they could have just waited there. Like, it's a really dumb thing to do. It's not like they were just gonna be there for the rest of their lives, but they're children, they're panicking, and Ron says, if we can't get through, what if Mom and Dad can't get back? Now, I still think that's not a good enough reason to go steal a car and just go to school.
Well, has this kid never been left alone in his life?
Apparently not.
I guess maybe not, because he has 6 siblings.
Yeah.
So maybe he's never been alone. And he's like, Mom and Dad will never return.
Now, you actually have to look at what kind of person Ron is. I think that he is alone a lot because none of his other siblings really like him. Ginny doesn't like him. She rarely hangs out with him.
The twins just
the twins are the
picking on
closest in age to him, and they just bully him. He barely knows Percy or Charlie or Bill.
Yeah, it's true.
His only friend is his rat. his rat who is a criminal, which is why his first thought is steal the car, because his mentor is a rat.
So are you implying he actually talks to this rat
Yes,
and the
no.
rat talks back?
I believe, as will become apparent
Yeah.
more
He does
when we
talk
talk
to
about the third
Scabbers.
movie, that Ron knows that Scabbers is,
A criminal. He might not know the full extent.
I believe Scabbers is the one who teaches him the Imperius Curse, which I think he uses in the third movie.
I can actually buy that.
But I think that having a mentor rat who is a criminal is probably why he thinks steal car.
All right.
Well, just to paint a picture of how absurd this is, I want to walk through Ron's thought process. Because first Harry says, maybe we should just go wait by the car, which is a completely reasonable course of action if you can't find your parents. And it's interesting because Harry has no parents. Like, he shouldn't know how to do stuff like
I mean,
this.
he probably lost the Dursleys a lot and had to
purpose.
learn
Yeah, but they
how to...
wouldn't care about him. Like,
Well, I was thinking
Well, I
more
guess
like
they
they
would, 'cause they
lost
don't want
him and he
Dumbledore
had to
to
like, okay, I'll go wait by the car so they don't leave without me.
either way, Ron apparently is like, wait a minute, I've got a better idea. How about we steal the car, stranding my parents here,
Yeah.
and driving across the
I
country
mean-
for
Well, he
no
knows his
reason at
parents
all,
can
without
operate.
licenses and without knowing how to drive.
Yeah.
And then Harry's just like, well, okay, Ron, if you think that's a good idea.
That is Harry's attitude when talking to anyone, is just, well, okay.
Well, okay.
Do whatever you
If
say.
you say so.
Yeah, and that's canonically
Well-
true for the first 4 books as well.
Shouldn't this whole escapade, this whole fiasco, get them arrested for misuse of Muggle artifacts,
It
which is
absolutely
his dad's
should.
department?
Yeah,
Right,
like
but his dad
His
can let
dad
him
hunts
off.
down wizards who
Well, no,
misuse
'cause
Muggle artifacts.
as Molly says in The Howler, the dad is facing an inquisition in the
Yeah, because
ministry,
they're
and it's
friggin'
entirely
corrupt
their fault.
family, and
Yeah,
the dad gets him a slap on the wrist.
it's true. But also, like, I'm pretty sure him even having that car is misuse of magical artifacts. Like, I think
Right.
I think you're right.
I think
Well-
he got it from like some investigation and just kept it, but he
Right.
wasn't supposed to keep
The
it.
the implication is that Ron's dad is the one who ends up taking the blame for this, probably with good reason, and that's why they just get a slap on the wrist. But also, we can talk about their slap on the wrist. When Snape talks to Harry and Ron after they steal the car, he doesn't seem angry. Alan Rickman plays this with like such concern in his voice and on his face, like a concerned father who's just trying to discipline his child.
I thought he seemed a
Yeah.
little angry.
Well, right, but like your
No,
child
he
steals
should
a
be
car.
angry.
Harry
Yeah.
is just like a dad.
Yeah.
Listen to how he says. He says, "You were seen by no less than seven
7.
Muggles. Do you have any idea how serious this is?" You know, it's
Yeah.
just like a dad would talk to their kid.
They play him as if like, oh, he's this cruel villain that Harry hates, when it's like he's being perfectly reasonable in this scene. Like what they did is crazy.
And then McGonagall comes in, gives him just a slap on the wrist. He's just like,
Yeah.
detention. That's all you get for joyriding and stealing a car. You're
Detention
Harry
is also the
freaking Potter.
punishment for
You
going to
don't
visit
have
the
suffer.
groundskeeper at night. Those two things are equivalent.
Wow. It's true.
So they are in Sprout's herbology class and they are learning
Oh,
to
yeah.
pull the mandrakes out. Now she says the mandrakes are just seedlings. Those are her words. Then she proceeds to pull out the most massive root I have ever seen. And it's
just a
screaming
seedling.
and alive.
It's a baby.
How big do these mandrakes get?
I think they get fully
As
human
big as
size.
people.
Yeah.
So that's my theory.
They become humans.
They grow to full
They're
human
people.
size. They are fully sentient and sapient.
And they get chopped up.
and stewed.
Listen,
You're right.
we know that wizards don't really care a lot about other types of creatures and beings
Exactly.
aside from wizards, and don't have a lot of like laws to protect their rights. So I think you're right.
Draco Malfoy. Why would he put his finger in the angry mandrake's mouth?
Yeah, I don't know why he did that.
But man, he is pissed at that mandrake.
You gotta love
He's
his
like,
perfect
oh.
face. Like,
He's like, oh,
he's so mad.
Yeah. I mean, I think that just goes to show Draco's just like a young child, right? Like he's just like, oh, what's this? And then gets
Right.
bitten. Is like,
Well,
ow.
he does
An
that
open
later
mouth.
when he's like picks up a random present. And he's like, is this yours?
yours? Yeah.
That's true.
I love Draco.
Oh, Draco.
So the mudblood scene is next. The directing in the mudblood scene is so weird, and it's not what I would have done after reading the book. Like everything is just
No.
slow paced and strange. Hermione delivers her line, and then Malfoy kind of just slowly walks up to her and delivers his line.
No one asked for your opinion, you filthy little mudblood.
And then there's 2 silent shots of Draco and Hermione just glaring at each other. And then Ron slowly pulls out his wand and says, "You'll pay for that one, Malfoy." in the book, it was like an instant reaction. It was like, no one asked your opinion, you filthy little mudblood. And then everyone was just like, whoa, like, oh man, man.
Like
And Ron pulls out his wand right away. It's like, you'll pay for that one. You know, like this one, like, we don't even see how anyone else react. How does Wood react? You know, all the Quidditch players are there. Like,
yeah, like he just used essentially a racial slur that's pretty negative in the wizard world.
And like people don't even like respond right away. First, we get the shot of him and Hermione just kind of glaring at each other, and then Ron's like, "Well, I guess I better say something."
Yeah, and I'll also say it makes more sense in where with him doing it's just like a knee jerk reaction, like and not thinking about it. Whereas like when he very slowly pulls out his wand and it's like, "You'll pay for that," you can see his wand is broken. Like it gives you plenty of time to be like, maybe you shouldn't cast that spell. And then he does, and it backfires.
Why does Hermione know what mudblood means?
Plot convenience.
I mean, in the book, it was Ron.
They thought maybe it would be more emotional if she's the one who says it.
If she was actually hurt by it. Because in the book, she wasn't hurt at all. She's just like, what?
Yeah. And I think also it makes it harder for Ron to explain after he cursed himself because he's puking a lot. Right. So I think they were just like, have Hermione explain.
That's the best explanation I've ever heard for this. You're right, Rita.
That's true. Because all Ron can say is, it's disgusting, which it's could be referring to his own, malady he's afflicted with. And Hagrid, I just want to point out, small point for bad Hagrid.
That's where we're going next, is they run away from there. Hermione and Harry just shuffle Ron off, take him to Hagrid's hut. Hagrid will know what to do. Not sure why. Probably should have taken him to Madame Pomfrey.
He's got a bucket.
Yeah. Good old bucket Hagrid. That's what we call him.
So yeah, they take him to Hagrid, and he says this calls for specialized equipment, and hands Ron a bucket.
The man who was shopping in Nocturne Alley for flesh-eating slug repellent, his specialized equipment is a bucket.
Yeah. And he tells Ron nothing to do for it, but just like wait it out. So honestly, they should have gone to Hagrid, obviously. But then the next thing, Hermione explains what mudblood means and stuff, and then Hagrid's going to comfort her. And he tells her after she's upset by it, he says, don't you think on it for a minute?
His method of comforting her is forget about it.
Yeah.
Really, think about it for
really
1 minute.
Useful. And then he gives her a compliment, right? He says, they haven't invented a spell Hermione can't do. And then don't you think on it for a minute.
Says the expelled student who should not be casting spells.
But he's actually very powerful to cast many spells. But yeah, and I just think that like like you said, it's a very token comfort gesture. Like just like, you're great. And then moving on, right? And that like I think a lot of people would be like, oh well, this is evidence that he likes her even though she is a mudblood and Death Eaters don't.
Oh my god.
Death Eaters.
So you're saying he's saying you're great in spite of the fact that you're a mudblood.
I was just saying it's a token gesture. He doesn't even feel that way. Like now, he doesn't care at all.
For a mudblood, it's crazy you can cast all these spells. That's pretty good.
You're almost as powerful as me.
You should feel good for yourself, mudblood.
Just don't let the fact that you're a mudblood hold you back, Hermione. Just accept it.
Yeah, if you get strong enough, Voldemort might even let you live.
We kind of glossed over it before. Gilderoy Lockhart is so good. He is a great actor.
He's an amazing
and a great
actor.
character. He is perfect. And when I read the books, this is exactly how I pictured him. They could not have picked a better Gilderoy Lockhart. He is Order of Merlin, 3rd class, honorary member of the Dark Force Defense League, and 5 times winner of Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award. This movie tries to paint him as some kind of like a coward or a loser for only bringing pixies into the classroom to, teach these kids how to handle dangerous animals.
Seamus seems to think they're pretty lame. He's like, Cornish pixies.
What was he supposed to do? It's a classroom. Was he supposed to expose these kids to dementors or poltergeists like some other crazy teacher might do?
Yeah, I think more than calling him a coward for bringing pixies, the problem is that he unleashes them on the students, does nothing to stop them, and then runs away because he's the running away
nip
teacher.
The rest of them back into their cage.
Hermione's Immobilis spell is freaking powerful.
Yeah,
that's because she's so powerful that she impressed even Hagrid.
Pretty good for a mudblood.
Holy crap. For a mudblood, she can really do some magic.
Yeah, no, she's a very powerful witch.
Is it okay to say mudblood so
No.
much?
Yes, it's okay. No, but I have to ask, why did Dumbledore hire Gilderoy Lockhart?
I have no idea.
Why did he sacrifice the children's education and safety for the fame of the school, basically. He just wants a celebrity teacher.
Well, I think
is what
that's
it
just
seems
another
like to
point
me.
for evil Dumbledore theory. Like, he is always the one who hires the defense against the dark arts teacher who ends up
And they're
going
always bad.
Yeah, and honestly, like, there's a rumor around the school that there's a curse on the dark arts position, and there almost
No,
certainly
Dumbledore
is.
is the curse on that position.
Well, maybe, but like people have said that Tom Riddle cursed it after he was not given the position. I think that's probably true, and he does nothing to try to break that curse. And maybe Dumbledore was dumb and was taken in by his lies and was just like, yeah, this guy, like,
Dumbledore.
he hunted all the vampires and did all these great things. Yeah, of course he'd be a great defense against the dark arts teacher.
Points for Gilderoy Lockhart. It kind of seems like he does not know that he is a fraud. If he knew that he was a scam artist, why would he try pesky pixie pesternomi? Why would he try rachium amendo on the arm? Like, he seems to think he actually is as good as he says.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think the implication is supposed to be that he's just such a show-off, right? That he wants the attention so bad that he's like, I know the spell, I can do it. And then he tries and he's like, oh, crap, I forgot I'm a terrible wizard.
He comes off as sort of a pompous and clumsy, stupid wizard who thinks he's cool,
But he tries.
but isn't. He does not come off as an ingenious con artist who goes around stealing people's memories and stories.
Yeah.
So I've got a theory about why Lockhart decided to purposefully disappear the bones in Harry's arm.
Okay.
He did it on purpose because he knows that Harry's family invented the Skelligro potion. So he wants Harry's family to get a little bit of fame. He's like, what if the great-great-great-grandson of the inventor of Skelligro regrew his own arm with Skelligro?
But I'm not going to
That would
tell
make the
anyone
headlines.
about this, or like...
He's like, I'll get Harry in the papers here.
He doesn't get Harry in the paper.
But you got to understand, he's a novelist. What novelist calls up Rita Skeeter and is like, hey, do a story on this thing that I'm going to write a novel about later?
So he's going to include it in his novel
He's
about
setting
his
it up.
year working at Hogwarts.
You're right.
He's like, the time when the great-great-grandson of the inventor of Skelligro got his skeleton
Was saved
regrow.
by
But
his
then how is he
grandfather.
going to
Yeah.
incorporate, like,
From
how did
beyond the
Harry
grave.
lose his bones in that story unless he's going to say, because
Dude,
I
they
was
just-
incompetent.
They got ground up by that bludger so
Right, it
much
was
they were just gone.
It was a Quidditch.
That bludger destroyed
Quidditch accidents
his
happen,
bones.
and they're
Okay,
weird.
That's true. Quidditch accidents
true.
do happen.
Which is what most people
And
seem
they
to
are
think
weird.
during Quidditch, like when the bludger was cursed in the first year. Only Snape cared. Everyone else is like,
Yep.
that's kind of weird. But
Cursed
it's
bludger.
Quidditch.
It's a rogue bludger. The next scene that I'd like to talk about is detention with Gilderoy Lockhart. Gilderoy Lockhart is giving him legitimately good advice here and being a good teacher. He's saying, don't screw up like this and steal cars. You got out of it because you're famous, but fame will go away. Like, that's what he's telling Harry, right? And then Harry gets all psychotic and is like, did you hear that? It's going to kill. And he's like, oh, maybe you should go.
Maybe you should go to bed.
I don't think he said it's going to kill to Lockhart. I think he just said that
not yet,
to
but...
Hermione.
Right, so
Nah.
You want to talk about the scene where they discover the cat?
Mrs. Norris is hung up. She is petrified, apparently. Filch is threatening Harry Potter, like threatening to kill him. And I love Filch. But
Filch is great.
he's the perfect casting. And also, Mrs. Norris is perfect casting.
I
a
love
good cat.
Mrs. Norris. She's beautiful.
So when this is happening and someone is threatening to kill Harry Potter, Snape defends him, saying perhaps Potter and his friends were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yep.
Then he does go on to note a few inconsistencies, as any caring father would, but
Yeah,
we'll
I mean-
gloss over those.
I don't even think you need to gloss
Kind
over
of
them.
seems like he's trying to paint them as
No,
the
I
bad
think this
guys
works
here.
because, like, legitimately, he is trying to defend Harry Potter. He doesn't believe Harry killed this cat because why would Harry have killed this cat, right?
True.
There's no reason, and I think Snape doesn't think he's like a psychopath. And so he's just like, listen, maybe they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Where actually were you, Harry? Right? Like, you weren't at dinner, so where were you? Like, give us your alibi.
Do you have any idea what time it is, young man? Where have you been?
Exactly.
So McGonagall tells them the story that light wizards wouldn't tell you. The story of Darth Slytherin the Wise.
Yes.
How he built a hidden chamber under the castle and sealed it until that time when his own true heir returned to the school. So my question here is, What? And why? Like,
I think the reason why is, as she said, first of all, I love when she introduces them all and she's like, Godric Gryffindor, Rowena Ravenclaw, Helga Hufflepuff, and Salazar Slytherin. So clearly like Slytherin. But anyway.
I mean, it's kind of like if you were naming the founding fathers and it was like George Washington, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and Hitler.
And Adolf Hitler. Yes.
I mean, it's true. Yeah. But then maybe they should have changed the name of that house. I got sorted into Hitler House. Like, no. But anyway, so she says that they differed over the who should be admitted to the school. He thought only so-called pureblood wizards should be admitted. And the other three founders disagreed. So he sealed up this basilisk to apparently murder all the half-bloods and mudbloods.
Yes, that is exactly why.
Until his heir came. So presumably he was just like, look, they're not ready for this yet, but a day will come when they're like, yeah, it's time to just be purebloods. And that's when my great-great-grandson's going to come and unleash the basilisk to purge the school.
Well, I also think for Salazar, it was, I don't know how evil he was. He was clearly pretty evil. But it was probably easy for him to be like, I don't know if I want to get arrested for murder, but maybe one of my ancestors would.
Yeah.
So you're saying
it's an important
wants children
job to
be
do.
murdered.
Oh, yes.
He just doesn't want to murder them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I assumed that it's a blood relationship that allows you to enter the Chamber of Secrets, but apparently not.
No, it is not.
Technically seems to just mean that anyone who can speak Parseltongue is the true heir of Slytherin.
Yeah.
That is correct.
I mean, they specifically say it's a very rare gift, even in the wizarding world. So I think the assumption...
I think security is just very bad.
Right,
in the
but like
wizarding
this
world.
was in the
There's no such
900
thing as
900
security.
AD. Like in 900 AD, if
They
you
had
had
locks
a
in 900 AD.
if you had a family specific trait that it's like outside of our family, people can't do this. With inside our family, people can. Then it makes sense to use that family trait to get into a room.
And also, that's true, but even beyond that, Salazar Slytherin's goal is only, I want someone who can control a basilisk, who is someone who speaks Parseltongue. So that's the only requirement.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's all wrong. Maybe the legend got twisted. Really, he caught the basilisk that was terrorizing kids, and he put it somewhere where it's safe.
I think-
He's like, holy crap, only someone who speaks Parseltongue can control this freaking thing, so I gotta put it behind a door that only opens if you can speak Parseltongue.
I was going to say, why didn't he kill it? But we know that he loves snakes.
Well,
He
because
couldn't
he's
kill
not
it.
going to go to
and
Godric Gryffindor
it's a legendary magical
and be
creature.
like, dude, can I use your sword? I'm really loyal to you. He's like, no, I'll save my pride. I'll just imprison it in this weird bath. No one uses bathrooms. They just apparate away their poop. This useless room here would be good for a basilisk.
Exactly.
No one's going to come in here.
Do they ever explain controlling the basilisk? Because I know Tom says, like, even though you speak Parseltongue, you can't control it now.
Well, see, my theory, and I don't know if they ever explicitly state this, is whoever talks to the basilisk first gets to control it.
That was kind of my guess as well.
Yeah, I
If
kinda
Harry
thought so
had gotten
too.
to it first, he would have been the one controlling it. And
it would have been like, love and be friendly.
like,
Aw.
hug.
That could also be dangerous.
When Colin Creevey is petrified, McGonagall suggests that he might have taken a picture of his attacker. Now, this is points for the evil Dumbledore theory. Dumbledore takes the camera, winds it a tiny bit, but then just
And then it
opens it,
destroys
and
all
the film is
film.
destroyed. He clearly did not wind it enough to not destroy the
Yeah.
film. Now, he implies that, the basilisk
It's
destroyed
cursed.
it.
Yeah, Basilisk did it.
Yeah.
Now, this is exactly what any muggle would expect to happen when you open up a camera.
Well, apparently wizards do use that kind of camera.
Wizards use cameras. Cameras are not unknown to
Right.
wizards.
He's trying to hide the identity of the Slytherin heir, who he believes is Hagrid. This is my theory for this whole episode. I should have said this at the beginning.
Yeah.
I believe that Hagrid is actually the heir of Slytherin. He was then, and he is now. And I think
Okay.
that Dumbledore knows this. Dumbledore is cool with it, and Dumbledore keeps Hagrid around. Not because Dumbledore is necessarily like, I don't believe he's in league with Voldemort, but he is a dark wizard himself, and he likes having other dark wizards around, like Hagrid.
Well, and Hagrid's loyal to him. That's the theme of this movie, is that
True.
if you are loyal to Dumbledore, he will take care of you.
Although he will also offer
He's
you
the
like a lamb to
Godfather.
the slaughter.
He'll do that too.
So Dobby, really, he just wanted to murder Harry,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Yeah, no,
like,
he-
that bludger is out for blood. It's gonna
Right.
kill Harry. It's
No,
not gonna
no,
stop.
I
It's
just-
going to
I don't know how
just
you
grind
get-
his bones into dust after he's dead. It's gonna keep pounding him into the ground.
I don't know how you get to the end of this movie seeing all the evidence and you're like, oh yeah, Dobby was a good guy. Like, look at the evidence. The slave of Lucius Malfoy, who wants to kill Harry, is trying to kill
Is
Harry.
trying to kill Harry. Yeah, exactly.
Over and over
That's what I
again.
got out of it.
Yeah.
He's been asked by Lucius to kill Harry. And that's why whenever Harry asks him anything, he gets all cagey and can't say and starts beating himself.
At the very end, when Lucius loses his assassin, what does he do? He tries to cast Avada Kedavra. He's like, well, I guess I got to
Yeah.
do it myself.
In the script
You
I
got
read,
it.
he didn't specifically try to cast Avada Kedavra. I think it's an
definitely
excellent
did in
choice
the
of that
movie.
actor. To be like, I'm just gonna murder this child in Hogwarts outside Dumbledore's door, right? Like Dumbledore
Yeah.
is 10 feet away.
You know, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. And so, speaking of Dobby, he visits Harry in the hospital wing while he is Skelegrowing his arm back. This basilisk doesn't really manage to kill anyone in this entire movie. They're all saved
Really
by
bad
random
at the
things.
By
one
Like,
thing
apparently,
it
coincidence.
does.
seeing the reflection of it is enough to save your life. Also, a window is enough to save your life. Like, if you see the basilisk gaze through a window, it won't kill you. Because Colin Creevy saw it through the viewfinder of his camera, which is a thin square of glass that was enough to save him. So my question is, does this mean that Harry Potter is the only person in the school who's actually, and Dumbledore, are actually just wearing anti-basilisk devices on their faces in the form of eyeglasses?
That's
Because,
why witches and wizards haven't gotten an eye healing spell yet. They're like, there's used to glasses.
the
really
basilisks
might
are coming.
need
We gotta put our
basilisk.
glasses on.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, all Dumbledore needed to do is just say, okay, every student wear glasses now. Like, that would have protected everyone.
Supposedly they didn't know it was a basilisk yet, right? Like they didn't know what was going on. People are just randomly getting petrified.
that's
They didn't
true.
even know that
Luckily,
people were in danger
Malfoy
of dying
clued them
from
in.
it.
Right.
But I will say, like, it's unbelievable that they didn't close this school down sooner, right? Like someone literally
Yeah.
wrote on the walls, like, I'm gonna kill a bunch of students. And then people started getting petrified and they were just like, nah, I guess we'll wait and see what
Right.
happens.
No, they are very lucky no students got killed. And also very lucky that last time only one student got killed.
Yeah.
The dueling scene. So this is a cool scene, and of course Snape just mops the floor with Gilderoy Lockhart, even though it was pretty easy to see what he was going to
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Because they were
And then I
disarming
love
only.
how-
It was pretty easy to know
Yeah.
what he was going to do.
Yeah, that's true. There's only one disarm spell that we know of.
In the dueling scene, it is Snape who suggests first we should teach the students how to block unfriendly spells.
Yes.
Which I
He
have
is
to
totally
say,
trying to protect Harry.
Yeah.
He's totally, and also this would be a very useful skill to learn that they
They do
never
not teach them.
ever
They
teach
never
to
teach
them.
them. Never.
Like the adults do know how to block spells, and the kids don't.
Yep, Snape does
Yeah.
it.
Why
He
don't they
blocks
learn that in
McGonagall's
Defense
spells.
Against
It's
the
just
Dark
for
Arts?
Draco. That's all it is.
No. We can't teach
But
the
yeah,
kids
no,
that.
I love that scene because, yeah, he says, perhaps it would be prudent to first teach the students to block unfriendly spells, Professor. And Gilderoy Lockhart's like, yes, quite right. Let's have a volunteer.
Let's have them fight
And
each
teach
other.
them nothing.
Yeah, they didn't.
Uh-huh.
They just have them do the exact same thing that Lockhart
like-
and Snape just did.
And in Snape's defense, he didn't want to step on Gilderoy's toes here. Gilderoy is a teacher, and this is Gilderoy setting this up.
Yeah.
He was expecting Gilderoy to teach him how to block spells, but Gilderoy
He
doesn't.
Didn't.
But he does intervene to protect
Yes.
Harry when Harry's gonna have to fight Ron. He's like, no, that's not safe. Let's have Malfoy
Yeah,
go
no,
up
that's
there."
exactly what I was about to say. Is that Snape saw him choose Ron and Harry and was like, Ron is going to murder Harry. Like, literally. First of all,
'cause
he's a
Ron
crazy
is
Because
evil.
Ron is evil.
Yeah. And then
Yes.
second of all, his wand like cannot be controlled. Like, and so it's not safe. And so he's like, instead, I'm gonna put Draco in, which you might see that as like, oh, because it's his rival. But like as Erica mentioned, he doesn't really seem to think that highly of Draco, actually. And so he was just like, I'll just put this weak
He
kid.
thinks Draco's a loser.
Yeah.
Oh, I
He's
mean,
like,
well-
who's the worst student I have?
We'll get to this.
Draco.
We'll get to the sixth movie, but he thinks very lowly of Draco. He does not think Draco can do anything.
So yeah, he was just like, I'll just pick someone who will not hurt my son. Harry and Malfoy start dueling.
Dude. And what stance do they choose? They choose Snape's stance,
Yes.
of course.
Because that's the dueling
Even
stance.
Harry. They don't choose Gilderoy Lockhart's stance.
Perfect adaptation from the book. when Draco says, "Scared, Potter? You wish." And I have to say,
Dude.
I remember when the trailer came out for this movie and they had that scene and I was like, this movie's going to be so epic.
And it didn't
And
let
then
you down.
it was.
It was.
They start dueling, and then Malfoy casts the first spell.
Draco uses Everte Statum,
I don't know
which
what that
is
does.
probably a knockdown spell. I don't know. It just
Yeah,
and
which
Harry,
is why Harry responds by
with
using
Ricta
Ricta Sempra,
Sempra.
which is the tickling spell. But for some reason, it blasts Malfoy as
It's
well.
an angry
it
tickle.
blasts Malfoy off his feet and knocks the wind out of him.
Yeah, it does-
Maybe he's laughing so much.
He
The
can't
wind blasted him off his feet and now he cannot breathe.
Yeah. So I don't know why I did that.
As Malfoy struggles to his feet, Snape grabs him and jerks him around and like glares at him. He's mad at Malfoy for cheap shotting his
Yeah.
son like that. He's like, "You're supposed to do disarming
What
spells,
is
you
wrong
jerk."
with you? And so then Malfoy uses Serpent Sortia.
When Draco does cast Serpent Sortia, Snape interrupts the duel to come in and help Harry, saying he'll get rid of the snake.
Right.
Yes. And then Gilderoy says, oh, he can do it. And he just like flips
Sit up.
it in the air. And so he makes it really mad. So the snake is going to attack Justin. And Harry interrupts to try to get the snake not to attack Justin using parcel tongue. And everyone's very confused, including Snape. And then finally, Snape does exactly what he said he would do. And he gets rid of the snake.
Snape is such a badass, cool master of magic. Like, of course, only, Snape would know such an amazingly niche spell as Viperia Evanesca, the
Disappear the
snake
snake.
vanishing.
Yep.
And unfortunately, Gilderoy only knows the Snape levitating spell.
Wow, that's a good spell.
Snape gets rid of the snake just as promised, and then the
Right.
scene ends with
And-
Justin being like, what are you playing at? Which maybe makes more sense to British people. That always seemed like a
Right.
weird response to me.
Well, the third and fourth victims were Nearly Headless Nick and Justin Finch Fletchley. This is just a horrible day for Harry. Because first of all, Justin is the one who everyone thinks that he was sending a snake after in the dueling tournament. Second of all, he gets sent to Dumbledore's office, where the Sorting Hat immediately tells him that he should definitely be a Slytherin.
Yeah.
And third of all, he walks over to Dumbledore's pet bird,
It
which
explodes.
explodes.
Yep.
And then Dumbledore walks in.
There was nothing I
Like,
could
it's just
do.
the worst day
That's
ever
a
for
good
Harry.
scene. And I wish Dumbledore had. If it was Gambon playing Dumbledore in this movie, he would have walked in and been like,
Did you
"What?
put your name in
Why
the-
did you killed my bird? Why are you?"
Dumbledore, did you forget what phoenixes are?
I'm just a crazy old man now. I'm played by a different actor.
And I'm gonna yell at everyone all the time.
Now they're brewing Polyjuice potion, right?
Yes, so they decide that they need to talk to Malfoy, right? Because they think that Malfoy probably knows who is
Right.
the heir of Slytherin if Malfoy is not the heir himself.
Right.
So they
And-
decide to brew Polyjuice potion to sneak in to talk to him.
So Hermione, for whatever reason, believes that this very weird bundle of short hairs that is clearly not the hair of a human, and
not
she
human
got off
hair.
of Millicent Bulstrode's robes, who presumably Millicent has long hair.
Yeah.
This is not her hair, Hermione. It's like a
Little
giant
cat
bundle
hairs.
of hair that
They're
was
probably
on
her
her robe.
Yeah, I don't know why she thought that was Millicent's hair.
So they can think of no other way of getting a strand of someone's hair, despite Hermione already having told them a way, than to drug students, knock them out, throw them in a broom closet. Like, this seems a bit
Yep.
extreme.
Well, not just drug them in the dumbest possible
Yeah,
way.
like, who would eat a
leave
levitating
cupcakes in the middle
cupcake?
of a
No,
hallway?
but we gotta describe this. We have to
levitating.
describe this thing because I love their reaction to floating cupcakes. They're like, "Wow,
It's
we
so
already
good.
have an unconscionable amount of food stored
Yes,
in
just
our
a
arms
ridiculous
for
amount
no
of food.
reason."
So much.
But I could really go for a random floating cupcake
Floating
right now.
magical
Like
cupcake.
this very instant, I will eat it. I
Yes.
must consume it.
The rest of the food we will save. This food we
Now,
will eat.
Now.
let's smile and moan at each other while we awkwardly eat these.
I love Crab and Goyle. They're so great.
Yep. But hey, Harry and Ron got their hair.
Right. Oh, and when they drink the potion, I always loved how Ron and Hermione both take one sip and get sick, and Harry is just standing there like, "Hey,
Wow.
pretty
That
good."
was
He
another.
goes back for seconds and thirds.
Yeah. It's like someone didn't tell his actor how bad
He's
it
got a
was.
look on his face like, "Hey, it's pretty good." Maybe the drink actually was pretty good, and that was just like his genuine reaction, Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, yeah.
Like he doesn't even notice that Ron and Hermione both
They're
ran away.
puking. Yeah. What did you expect? Pumpkin juice? So yeah, they turn into Crab
So,
and Goyle.
yeah. And then they still sound like themselves. And Ron proceeds to repeat bloody hell in the exact same
Yeah.
voice he just
The same voice.
It's like, you
Didn't
need to
even
sound
change
more
it.
like Crab.
Oh, yeah. Bloody hell. Yeah.
They go down to the dungeon. They get caught by Percy. In the movie, they never explain why Percy was down there.
No, Ron asks him and he
No.
just says, I'm a prefect. Why are you here? Which, to be
Yep,
fair,
he's a
if
prefect.
they're in the dungeons. That's where Slytherin's, common room is.
Yeah.
Like, it makes perfect sense for them to be there, unless he's saying, why aren't you in bed yet? But,
Right.
they're probably on their way.
Yes, it does make a lot more sense for Crab and Goyle to be down there. So around this point, I think Harry Potter finds a notebook in the girls' lavatory, and Moaning Myrtle is, of course, sad about it because they threw it on her
Thrown
head.
through her head.
Harry finds this blank diary and decides that, hey,
I'm just going to
it's
write in
ghostwriter
it. Yeah.
time.
He drips ink onto this paper, and the ink
It absorbs
disappears.
It sucks it up. And he's like, oh, I
Yeah,
can write
he just
to this
jumps
diary.
to the conclusion that
What?
he should introduce himself.
So Tom says, let me take you back 50
Right.
years ago.
This scene is so cool because this is, of course, the scene where they both refuse to tell Dumbledore something important.
Yes.
They both say, no, sir, nothing, when Dumbledore is like, do you have something
Right.
to tell me? Dumbledore clearly suspects Harry of being the heir of Slytherin.
Yes.
I have to admire J.K. Rowling and her writing simply due to the sheer amount of similarities between young Harry
Yeah.
Potter and young Voldemort.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
right.
I think she did an excellent job there.
Did an amazing job making these two characters so similar.
They both consider Hogwarts their home. Neither one of them wants to leave.
Yeah, and they don't really have any family.
Yeah. Also, it is a very good thing that during this flashback, Tom Riddle teaches Harry Potter Aronia Exime, because that is
He loves that
is a
spell. It's the most
very
useful spell.
What does that spell do?
it gets just
That's
blast
the spider
spiders.
banishing
Spiders,
spell. It
yeah.
banishes
That's
spiders.
kind of what I
It makes
thought,
them
but
go
I was
away.
like, maybe it's less specific.
Because
Nope, it's the spider
as
banishing
far as I can
spell.
tell, this is where Harry learns it.
Yeah, I think you're
This
right.
is his second year, and he did not use spells in the first year. So
So this memory does prove that Hagrid was an acquaintance of Voldemort while he was in school, and Voldemort had blackmail over him, and Hagrid was expelled for keeping dangerous, violent monsters at school, right? This solidifies that they have a relationship.
in the flashback, Hagrid is like, Aragog wouldn't hurt nobody, which seems
That's
to be what
not
he believes in the
true.
future, but it's absolutely
Yeah.
not true.
If you wanted to argue that Hagrid was evil or perhaps was, friends with Tom Riddle or whatever, that this entire Tom Riddle caught Hagrid story is shown through Tom's memories, it may not even be true, right? Like, this could just be some message that he's showing to Harry for the sake of convincing him to go talk to Hagrid, which maybe will put him in more danger or whatever it is. Perhaps this was a fabricated story to cover up some of what Hagrid and Tom were actually doing during their time together in Hogwarts.
Yeah, they were working together. They were the heirs of Slytherin.
Yeah. Anyway.
In the next scene, when they're talking about something Mad and Harry, Hagrid creeps up behind them saying, Mad and Harry? You wouldn't be talking about me, would you?
What about me?
Maybe Hagrid is the heir of Slytherin. So he's the one carrying the dead chicken when he comes in to tell Dumbledore that Harry didn't do it. Of course, he's saying
You're
this
right.
because he knows that he did it. Now, of course, the killing of chickens is supposedly blamed on Ginny so that she can write in blood. But really, it could have been Hagrid. We never see Ginny with a dead chicken. We see Hagrid with the dead chicken whose blood was used to
We see Ginny in a flashback covered in
that
And it
is
blood.
was
told
just
by
described
Tom
by
Riddle.
Tom Riddle, yeah.
As Brita just said,
Yes.
those might not necessarily be all that reliable.
They weren't only used for writing in blood, they were also used for feeding the basilisk. That's why the entire chamber is full of chicken bones, because it's been eating chickens. But, sorry, are you saying that Hagrid is feeding the basilisk
Maybe
as well?
the student-
I am.
Maybe this
He is the guy who takes care of the animals at Hogwarts. I think that's
Are you
pretty-
So he's like, well, I know there's an animal that lives in that there chamber
All
of
right.
secrets, so
and
I
he
better
was
go
working
take care
with
of it as
Tom
well.
last time to take care of the basilisk. They were working together. And Tom sold out his accomplice.
Are you saying that Ginny never entered the chamber of secrets?
we have definitive proof that she did enter it
Except
at one
for
point.
when Harry found
Right,
her.
right.
Yeah.
I don't believe that Ginny was the one doing it. I think that Hagrid was the one doing most of this. So in the very next scene, after Hagrid creeps up behind them as something big and hairy, Harry's room is trashed and the diary is gone. How did Ginny know that Harry had the diary? And why did she tear up his room? Who would have known about the diary in Harry's room? Ginny had no way of knowing. Hagrid was the one walking up right behind them while they were talking about the diary. Like in that scene where he sneaks up behind him, Harry is telling them about the diary and the flashback that he just saw. Also, apparently, after talking to that diary once, Harry never talked to it again.
No, never again. Moaning Myrtle also would have known that he had
That's
the diary,
true, but
so
Moaning
maybe she
Myrtle
told
does not
Ginny.
like Ginny. She just threw a book at her.
She didn't know who threw the book at her.
Yeah. One other evil person knew that Harry had the diary. Ron Weasley.
I do think that's the actual evidence for how Ginny was supposed to have figured it out, though, is that Ron and Hermione had mentioned it to her.
At the end of the scene where he creeps up behind them with flesh-eating slug repellent, he lowers his voice and says, "You three had better look after yourselves, all right?" Sounds kind of like a threat to me. And right after he tells Hermione she'd better watch out, Hermione is petrified. That's the very next person who is a victim of the basilisk, is Hermione. Someone who he just overheard talking about the diary and the heir of Slytherin. And he's getting rid of evidence. So Hermione is petrified, and the next shot we get is Harry lovingly caressing her and just staying by her side as he loves to do. He's just petting her hand. But he does this twice where he's just sitting by her side, touching
He does
her
do it
hand.
twice.
So they go to Hagrid's hut. He answers the door with a crossbow. They say,
Aimed at
"What's
them."
that for?" He says, "Oh, nothing. I was just expecting." So Hagrid was fully intending to murder the ministry
Yep.
officials who come there to
And
arrest
he was.
the
him.
only
He was gonna
reason
kill
he
them.
didn't is because Ron and Harry were there, and he was too busy hiding them.
Right, yeah. The only reason he doesn't murder them is because he set down his crossbow and he
He's
was
going to kill
distracted.
Cornelius Fudge.
Yep. So they ask him, did you hear about what happened to Hermione? And he says,
like,
"Oh yeah, I heard about that, all
Because
right."
he did it.
But also, even in a world where you don't think he did it, that is such a callous response to these three children that are supposedly friends with him, that he's has a pretty deep relationship with. He knows they have a deep relationship with each other. Two of them say, "Our third friend is, petrified, maybe gonna die."
dead.
And he's just yep, heard about that. I know he's supposed to be worried about his own fate, but come on.
Ron and Harry pointedly ask him if he knows who opened the Chamber of Secrets. Now, if we are to believe this story as the way it is told to us, the correct answer to that question is no. Yeah. But instead, he says, "Now, you see, what you have to understand about that is," and then Cornelius Fudge shows up.
I assume what he was going to say.
What he was going to say is, what you have to understand about that is, I didn't open it. I just raised a spider.
He could have just said
Right?
no.
Yeah, I think he was going to say, you have to understand about that is
I think what he's saying, what you have to understand about that is, it was me and Tom working together.
Why would he tell them that?
No, why would he tell them?
No, he's not going to say that, but he has to think of something on the fly, because he knows in his mind that the correct answer is, me and Tom were working together to kill some students because we're both evil. And he's like, what you have to understand about that is, you see, it wasn't me, it wasn't Tom, it wasn't anyone. There is no heir of Slytherin.
Well, that's just a lie.
So are you saying that Hagrid is a Parseltongue?
I don't know if Hagrid is a Parseltongue. He may not be. But I do know that of the non-Parseltongues at this school who know how to train and communicate with animals, Hagrid is the most qualified to do that.
So, just to clarify, in your theory, during the same year that he and Tom Riddle decided to open the Chamber of Secrets, maybe working together, he also just randomly side quest adopted a spider that was terrified of basilisks.
That's exactly what Hagrid would do.
Yeah.
To be fair, that's what he does.
I didn't say this was a
year.
In the
critique.
same year that he
clarifying.
was conspiring with Quirrell to do whatever, he randomly just was like, "Hey, Quirrell, could you get me a dragon egg? I'd really like one."
Has nothing to do with anything.
He wasn't just conspiring with Quirrell, but he was conspiring with Tom Riddle.
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh yeah, I'll deliver Harry to you in the Black Forest, but I really like a dragon
But
egg."
you know what we really do best together? We raise dangerous animals
Don't you
together.
remember 50
Can we do
years
that again,
ago?
Tom?
We raised that spider together and
Good
you
old
sold
days.
me out.
That was
They may have
fun.
agreed to that, and especially if we're assuming that Dumbledore is also kind of in league with him because he did protect Hagrid after all this. They may have just been like, "Hey, this is probably the simplest solution." Tom really doesn't want Hogwarts to get closed down because he doesn't want to go back to the orphanage.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Let's just end everything."
so why
this
did he
way."
do that?
Yeah, I don't know.
When they are going to take him away and take Dumbledore away, he threatens them. He's like, "You take Professor Dumbledore away and the Muggleborns won't stand a chance. You mark my words, there'll be killings next."
Question: are there any more petrifications after they take Hagrid away?
No.
No.
The next thing that happens is that the monster takes a student directly into its lair, which,
Right.
why would it do that?
So then Tom Riddle in the
It's never
book
done that
finally
before.
has power enough that he can take over Ginny, etc. He doesn't have to rely on his accomplice Hagrid anymore, and he takes Ginny down into the basement or dungeon, whatever. And anyway, all I'm saying is that up until this point, I believe Hagrid actually was the heir of Slytherin. He was in 50 years ago as well. And when they take him away, the students stop getting petrified.
And regardless of whether he's the heir of Slytherin or not, it's still a really bad move to send those kids to those evil spiders.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Jeez, Hagrid.
But he's immediately making good on his promise of there will be killings next. He knows he won't be there to kill anyone, but he can send 2 kids to their death.
Send these kids over to die.
When Hagrid leaves, he says someone will have to feed Fang. Now, I believe these spiders will not attack Fang either. And what he meant was Fang will eat your bodies along with
They're
the
going to have a nice
spiders.
Fang and spider feast.
He wasn't implying they need to go feed Fang.
Sure. I don't know about that.
Uh,
So he sends them, they deal with Aragog. Aragog confirms Hagrid's alibi. So the only people we've had confirm the alibi are Tom Riddle, who we definitely don't trust, right? And Aragog, who is a spider that we know is unflinchingly loyal to Hagrid. Like,
Yes.
this spider will do
Right,
anything Hagrid asks except not kill people.
So basically, Hagrid has filled the Forbidden Forest to the brim with an army of murderous giant
Yeah.
spiders who only obey him. They will not hurt him, but they will kill anyone
Yes.
else. And Hagrid did this on
little
purpose.
army of the night.
Yeah. Can the spiders reproduce asexually? Like, how are there so many spiders from just the one spider?
It's a
Well,
good
Aragog
question.
is female
I guess
and was
Aragog was
already
pregnant.
pregnant.
Okay. But he got him from an egg, didn't he?
Yeah,
he
I
was
thought he got
born
him from an egg.
pregnant?
It's an immaculate
Hagrid
conception.
got him pregnant.
Oh!
Ew,
And
no,
that's where he
stop.
got those flesh-eating slugs. No.
It is an STD.
Oh, no.
Please don't put that in the episode.
But it's a good payoff.
Nice callback.
Okay, so back to the romance. Harry brings Hermione fresh
Harry
flowers.
and Hermione. He does.
And then he caresses
and then
her
he
hand.
sits there and caresses her
and
hand.
tells her
saying,
how much
"Wish
he
you were
needs
here,
her."
Hermione. We need you now more than ever. And Ron just stares blankly. Like Ron has no expression. He's just standing there.
And this is, of course, when he finds Malfoy, who must have come in and caressed her hands earlier and put the page in her
He
hand
put the note
that he
there.
knew was going to be useful way back at the beginning
the
of the
argument
year.
I've heard is not that he put it in petrified Hermione's hand,
He
but
did.
that he left it out for her. She had been studying in the libraries and she found it, and that's why she wrote pipes and she knew to put the mirror. Because they should know her handwriting. She does homework for them a lot.
Like, you have to understand, Ron and Harry aren't very observant.
They're also not
yeah,
very good
it's
students or
possible
good
he put it in
people.
her hand there. I think it's nice to think that she did figure it out. And also, if she didn't figure it out, then it would be very confusing to her at the end when they're like, we had loads of help from you. Huh.
You helped us. No, but remember, Hermione always wants to be the
That's
best,
true.
right?
She's
She's
just
like,
like,
I fought the troll all by
Makes
myself.
perfect sense to me.
Ginny goes down to the Chamber of Secrets. Gilderoy Lockhart is sent to take care of it. The teachers apparently do not care. Because
Yeah.
that is all they do, is send Gilderoy Lockhart to take care of it.
I mean, McGonagall has said the whole school has been searched multiple times and no evidence of this chamber has ever been found. So apparently the teachers have given up. Like, they don't believe it's possible to find this.
Right.
And so they're just like, Ginny's dead.
Honestly, Gilderoy Lockhart is right. He should not be pressured by the
Well,
other
they
teachers
should
to
all
go
run
and
away.
risk
The
his
school
life
should
here.
be closed
No, I
down.
agree.
Yes, everyone should leave.
And I do kind of think that's what the teachers were going to do. Like, I think they were just like frustrated at the situation and were just like, go do whatever you want, Lockhart, and we're going to have to close down the school.
Yeah, so they took a time out to just
They
mess
were like,
with
they
him.
were all
They're gonna
together. To be
bully
fair,
him
it
a
was
little
Snape
bit.
who did it.
Yeah.
Why do Harry and Ron bring Lockhart with them? What's
Better
the
you
point
than
of bringing
us.
Lockhart?
That's a good point.
Oh, okay, that explains it. You're right.
Just a bit of evidence that it could have been Hagrid who was the heir of Slytherin. Moaning Myrtle did not see who killed her back in the day. She heard it was a boy's voice, and she describes him speaking in a sort of made-up language. Now, I've heard parcel tongue. I would not describe that as a sort of made-up language. I would describe that as someone hissing. It does not sound like a language.
So you think Hagrid just came in there with his thick
Yes.
accent, was like, "Oh, today I'll got a
bloody bastard, kill the girl.
Wait, so he was ordering the basilisk to do it in English. And she was just like, huh?
What kind of weird made-up language is that?
I don't know if this is great evidence.
And then Harry proves he could have been the heir of Slytherin when he actually does open the Chamber of Secrets.
For all we know, you could be.
The only confirmed opening of the Chamber of Secrets that we have in this year is when Harry opens it.
But it had to have opened before that because Ginny's in it.
Well, I guess. But the basilisk doesn't need the chamber to be
travels
open.
with the
It travels through the pipes.
But Ginny does. She's not Mario. She can't travel through pipes.
Hogwarts has insanely big pipes.
For apparently no reason if they didn't have
Huge.
plumbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's because they need to carry basilisks.
Yeah, Salazar was like,
Slytherin
oh
built
man,
this
where am I
place.
going to put this? Gotta make some really big pipes.
So in the Chamber of Secrets, there is a nice convenient rock slide separating Ron and Harry.
Yeah.
I think maybe Ron caused this rock slide. He's like, it's too dangerous down
Ron
here.
literally caused that rock slide. It was his wand.
Yeah.
He did that in the first movie with the when he knocked himself out for the
Yeah.
final fight.
It's his MO.
Harry Potter meets Tom Riddle. Tom Riddle's actor is amazing.
Yeah, he's great.
I just love it. His performance is very subdued. He takes the wand and he's like, you won't be needing it, in this kind of soft voice, but it's also like so creepy, even though it's soft. It's just crazy because it's the exact opposite of the Voldemort actor, who is unbelievably flamboyant
He's, like,
in
over
every
the top
way.
and weird.
Well, this is, meek, shy, lived in an orphanage Tom. Later he gets more flamboyant. I also love that actor. I think one of the best things they did there too is that I think Tom was described as being fairly handsome when he was young, and then he turned into a weird snake man.
Ooh.
And I think they picked a very handsome actor. Like,
Yeah.
he's really like,
He's great.
he's
I kind of
awesome.
wish he was just Voldemort through the whole series.
Well, he was too young.
I love Harry killing Tom by destroying the book with the basilisk fang. That is so good. I love the ink spurting out
Oh, yeah.
everywhere.
It's
I
great.
love
And, like,
Tom Riddle's acting.
Tom Riddle's
here.
acting is he's like, oh, you can't do
Utterly
anything. And then
amazing.
he stabs the book and he's like, no, wait, not
He's
that.
like, wait, what? You can't do something.
And as it turns out, I mean, as always, Harry is extremely lucky that he happened to have basilisk venom because like nothing else would destroy a Horcrux.
Nothing else
they're
could
very
have done it.
difficult to destroy.
The whole movie is about showing loyalty and faith to Dumbledore. Harry needed to show the requisite amount of fealty to Dumbledore before Fawkes would
Yes.
save him. Fawkes did not come in there, even though he could have, until Harry said, Dumbledore will never be gone as long as those who remain are loyal to him.
Albus Dumbledore is the greatest sorcerer in the world. Like, says
Yes.
who? What has Dumbledore ever done that
Says-
you've seen, Harry?
It's only at that point that Fawkes comes in and saves him. Why would Fawkes bring him the Sorting Hat? And why was the Sword of Godric Gryffindor inside of the Sorting Hat? How did Fawkes get into the chamber?
Well, what it proves is Dumbledore always knew where the chamber was and how to get into it. And he wasn't stopping the killings just because he didn't want to.
He didn't care.
Like, if Fawkes can get down there, then Dumbledore knows how to get down there.
Yeah.
It's really lucky for Harry that this Deus Ex Phoenix showed up to save the day 4 times. It came in, it gave him the hat and sword, it clawed out the basilisk's eyes, and then when he died anyway despite all that, it cried on his arm to heal him. And then, when even after having saved him those 3 times, they couldn't
It
get
just
out, it was
flew
like,
away.
okay, I will carry everyone out of this chamber to safety.
But also in that scene, Gilderoy Lockhart says, this is just like magic, bringing just so many questions about what that Obliviate charm actually did to his memory.
Right, because magic would be
They turned him
so
into a muggle.
ingrained into everything he grew up as a wizard,
Yeah.
right?
Like,
if
even
he knows
No,
how
it
to
turned him into
speak,
a muggle.
he should know what magic
Yeah,
is.
or even if he knows what magic is, he should know it's real, right? Like,
I'm moving out of the chamber. Dumbledore details why Harry Potter and Ron deserved to be expelled for breaking so many school rules.
Ooh, I love this
And then
part.
says that is why they're getting special awards for service to the school.
also specifically the exact same name as the award that they gave to Tom Riddle.
Wow.
Dumbledore knew, especially at this point, if they're going with Harry's story, Dumbledore knows that Tom Riddle did no service to the school, that he was supposedly the one who unleashed the basilisk, and they've kept that award up ever since, even though
Right, no.
Tom turned into
This is an
Voldemort.
award that Dumbledore made up to encourage rule breakers.
Yeah.
He's teaching them that you can do anything you want as long as you're loyal
Yeah.
to me.
It's
He's
true.
saying, yeah, you can break all the rules. You can do things worth getting expelled. If you're loyal to me, you'll be
You can
awarded
murder
for
Myrtle.
it, right? Wow, Myrtle.
At the end of the scene, after Lucius leaves, Dumbledore says, I sense that something is troubling you to Harry, and I really wish he had said, no, sir, nothing.
Wow, that would have been great.
He's like, are you going to open the Chamber of Secrets again?
I love the scene after this where Hermione comes back and Ron's head pops out. Then Harry's head pops out to block Ron's head.
And he looks so much more excited, too.
It's Hermione.
And when she hugs Harry, she won't hug Ron. Like, she specifically won't hug him. She
knows
shakes his
something's
hand.
up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this movie ends with a weird moment between Harry and Hagrid where there's no Hogwarts without you, Hagrid. I'm just like, why was
Oh, I forgot
Hagrid
about
the
that.
point of this movie, apparently? Like, why is this the end?
Dude, it's all
Hagrid was
about
also
Hagrid.
the end of the first movie, weirdly enough.
Hagrid's really important.
So, according to the after the credits scene, apparently brainwashed Lockhart is still very successfully writing novels. He's prominently displayed
true.
at Flourish
Yeah.
and Blots. His latest book is titled Who Am I? by
He's a
Gilderoy
very
Lockhart.
skilled
With
author.
a picture of him looking confused in a straitjacket. Whatever happens to him, he'll capitalize
Yeah.
on it. He's got good business sense, I guess. All right, well, I think that's everything I have for this movie. To sum it up, I think there was solid evidence that Snape at least cares for Harry in this movie. Maybe not quite that he's his father yet, but we're getting there. I think there is incredibly solid evidence that Dumbledore is a dark wizard and is architecting his own army entirely made of loyal students.
And it's worth pointing out that in, like, historically, in the real world, it's been shown that, like, that's the time to get people to be very, very loyal to you is when they're kids.
I think as far as Ron being evil and Imperiusing Hermione,
Nothing yet.
not so much evidence here, just a little bit showing that he's maybe not the best guy.
Yeah.
And that he doesn't have a strong
just
connection with
stuff
Hermione,
here
which
and there.
granted could change later, but...
Yeah. Hagrid being a Death Eater, we've definitely shown that he has a sketchy character once again. He also has an army of evil spiders.
That's true.
That will do whatever he says. Did Hagrid's open the Chamber of Secrets? Was he the heir of Slytherin? I don't know. You kind of lost me on that one.
I think
He's
there's
a
maybe
Death
some
Eater.
circumstantial evidence, but I didn't find anything, like, really solid for that one that, like, convinced me.
I think trying to prove that one hurts the rest of our theories because it's so far out. But yeah, no, I think a really good Harry Potter movie. Probably my favorite Harry Potter movie. Definitely my favorite.
Yes,
What do you guys
it's great.
think?
We love
Is
it.
good?
Very
Go
fun
watch
to
the
watch,
Chamber of
very
Secrets.
fun to talk about.
Watch it for Thanksgiving if this comes out before Thanksgiving. And if it comes out after,
Watch
then
it for Christmas.
watch it.
Watch it after Thanksgiving.
You can follow us on Twitter at Popcorn Isn't Real. Music for this episode was provided by Christine. Leave us a review if you like us. That would be awesome. Until next time,
The popcorn isn't real.